And the question you may be asking yourself is, why didn't I finally get out of that toxic and abusive relationship if it wasn't what I wanted for myself? You see, violent relationships are based on constant psychological abuse, manipulation, threats, and false promises of change that never come, but are very well acted out. Those who haven't lived through it perhaps don't understand how difficult and dangerous it can be to take the courage to get out of a traumatic circle. There are women who are afraid to come out and denounce for fear of not being believed. Others are ashamed to confess all that they have endured. Also, in many cases, women prefer to remain silent in order to keep everything a secret and to maintain the false appearance of a healthy relationship before society. Others have children involved and feel economically dependent of their predators. And others are incited by their relatives to endure and continue in the violent circle. And worse still, there are women who don't survive the escape from their predators. And the men who are victims of these are often so sexually attached to the toxicity or feel ashamed to confess it all that they come to think that that is what they deserve, or they believe they are the saviors of their aggressors. Whatever the case, I learned that we have to find a way to regain our power and get out of there. Today, thank God, I can tell about it. Today, I can consider myself a survivor. And I know my life was at risk while escaping. And I know that there are many women and men going through what I went through. It is for this reason that with great concern I expose all this, because I want to support, motivate, and provide a path of light to every woman and man, so that they can get out of these hells, that they can understand that their lives may be in danger, and maybe physical violence hasn't been present. In the same way, psychological violence and emotional abuse gradually destroys our brains and our nervous system, our confidence, our lifestyle. All these limit our ability to live happy as once we lived. Victims of these types of predators need a plan to escape. They need to seek help. And if they do research on how to escape from these relationships, they need to clear their search history. Because their predators can't find out that they are seeking help, that they are seeking their liberation. Studies and research of this behavioral disorder have found that narcissistic psychopaths feed on the suffering of their victims. For that reason, they don't let them go easily. And for this, they use threats, manipulate with taking their own life, extort you, destroy you economically, destroy your reputation, and even attempt against your life or against your job stability. The tactic they use to trap the victim again is called hoovering. Hoovering is a type of emotional abuse or emotional blackmail. It is executed by the narcissistic person when they think that the victim or the person they are abusing or controlling is looking to get away. Hoovering is a trap. It is a coldly calculated scheme using the vulnerabilities, dreams, illusions, and empathy of the victim. It is an energetically very draining dynamic that prolongs the toxic and often violent pattern. In my story, I lost count of how many times I tried to get him out of my life without involving justice. But he was obsessed with continuing to torture me. There was nothing healthy about this relationship, nor the separation. The insistence, instigation, and harassment were horrible. I could have 25, 30, 40 missed calls, plus a lot of texts. He would promise to make things right, and every time I fell for his manipulations, he would make me worse. He was slowly destroying my self-esteem. I tried for over 1 year to find my liberation. There were times when the abuse, pain, and suffering he caused me were so strong that I could only lie twisted on the floor, crying while hugging a picture of my dad and begging him to leave me alone, to get out of my life. I asked him what he wanted from me, but his gaze, his coldness were so cruel. In the face of my suffering, almost smiling, he accused me of being an actress without remorse, without empathy. I just wanted him to leave. Today I understand everything. He fed on my suffering. I couldn't escape. I felt kidnapped. My life was kidnapped. My joy, my smile were kidnapped. And you know what? I have never met such a human being. So dark, so evil, so cruel, so lying, manipulative, abusive, and cowardly. But that is a face that only those of us who have been abused by him know very well. The poker face that shows in front of society. And only we know the suffering that we have gone through. Thank God I never suffered of emotional dependency. Emotional dependency is that addiction that we can sometimes feel towards another person. These are chemical imbalances that generate the peaks of emotional abuse in our bodies and are responsible for what specialists call attachment to the perpetrator. Luckily, I can say that I didn't suffer from this attachment. Luckily, I never hesitated to denounce. I didn't want to turn back at all. I felt I didn't deserve that in my life. No one deserves that in their life. And if you allow me to be brutally honest, the truth is that today, responsibly, after looking back, I accepted. I never fall in love. And he always knew it too, because he always reproached me. He reproached me that I didn't look for him, I didn't write him. That is why even the beginning of the relationship was forced through pressure, psychological manipulations, and subtle threats. Sadly, I fell for that brainwashing and even forced myself to think that maybe I accepted that because I supposedly loved him. But today I realized that I wasn't happy. The opposite. I was happy without him because there were no tears when he was gone, because he was the only one who caused them for me. And that wasn't love, and never was. I realized how perverse he was when the relationship became formalized. That is when I felt the most imprisoned. I felt that there was an intruder in my home, and I was the submissive one who had to put up with everything. Whenever I would throw him out of my house because I discovered some betrayal or mistreatment, he would tell me with a challenging and malignant look, "No, I'm not leaving, you go." And I had no choice but, sadly, to leave my own house so as not to lose my temper. It was very humiliating. It was a total hell. From beginning to end, I lived suffocated, controlled, and emotionally abused. His drunkenness detonated his aggressiveness and violent pattern. This was very constant. I don't know how many times I tried to stop him from assaulting someone and fighting on the street. He had serious anger management problems. This is also a sign that specialists talk about that characterizes narcissistic psychopath. Drinking problems. Their demons become more evident and dangerous under the effects of alcohol. During the peak stage of my escape, a lot of things happened, especially when he was realizing that his manipulations weren't working as they had in the beginning. So he changed the tactics and talked to me about marriage. I didn't believe him much. However, I put pressure on him to see how far he would go with it. I knew he couldn't be faithful or loyal. And I thought that if I looked firm with the idea of marriage, I could scare him away. I was very deluded. Hoovering is also those insistent messages with phrases like, "You are the perfect match for me, don't leave me. I promise you the moon. I'm dying without you. I haven't slept for days because of you." And even asking the victim for marriage and talking about children. Everything is a strategy to continue attracting the victim to the circle of abuse. I was so dry, so cold to him that for me, it was impossible that someone wanted to marry someone so cold, so dry. So I thought that I could scare him off, but in the end, it didn't happen. On October 6, 2015, he had a show with Ricky Martin in New York. He asked me to meet him because he needed to give me something. That something was an engagement ring. In my mind was drowned the big question, how do I get him out of my life? I was honest. I was very clear that I didn't want to sign the act of my unhappiness and continue in that hell. So I turned down his marriage proposal, obviously in the middle of a horrible argument for not wanting him in my life. I wouldn't have married even to get some advantage in my immigration status, as he claimed during the legal battles. I had no need for that. I could opt for my artist residency, but he wouldn't give up. Gifts, invitation to trips, drama, and spreading false rumors about you to friends and mutual acquaintances are also hoovering tactics. So are making claims or false accusations intended to provoke you into defending yourself and responding to them. There were many strategies I tried to get him to leave me alone, to get him out of my life without affecting my job opportunities and my security. But they all failed, all of them. Many times I only thought of strategies to escape. I was alone, far from my family, in another country, and anything could happen to me. Until one day, I finally had the opportunity to at least get him out of my house. It all was thanks to a tour of shows that Ricky Martin had in Australia. He was going as his dancer and would be far away from me for many days. It was the ideal time to try what specialists call zero contact. The artists in this story play such an important role because they are the honey. In some way or another, they give people like him a sense of power, of being untouchable. The constant bragging about working with artists, the photos he posts on his social media, the close relationship he has with some, has been its letter of introduction to Kajol from day one. He mentioned a lot in the early stages and during the relationship a supposed close relationship with that artist. And today I understand that he was doing it to gain more credibility and trust, and it worked for him. That is exactly what gave me confidence to work for him, because I thought he was someone professional. And the alarming thing about this is that more girls from the entertainment industry claim to have fallen for it in the same way through job opportunities and false promises. So this tells me that the artists are the honey. As long as artists, managers, TV channels, choreographers, and different industries continue to allow the presence of predators, convicts, and abusers in the workplace, women will be in danger of being abused. And that makes them part of the problem because it opens the possibility for this problem to spread and magnify. We have a right to safety and for immoral, unethical, and criminal behavior not to be ignored and swept under the rug. Determined to be free. With him in Australia and me in Miami, more determined than ever to be free, I got his mother to get his things out of my house. It was either that or I would throw them out on the street. My decision was firm. I thought I could finally close a chapter in my life. His mother told me in a very casual way, "Oh, Magga, don't worry about the other women. You are the one he wants. Don't complain to him. Don't make him angry." Between the lines, her message was very clear, that I should put up with the abuse, the humiliations, and everything. All his behaviors were always supported by her. And I never thought I would find myself in a situation like this. These are red flags of a nuclear family lacking in values, lacking in principles. And later in my story, you will be able to see it more clearly. Dr. Iñaki also mentions that this type of family is the true pandemic of humanity and the cause of 90% of the problems that psychologists treat in consultation. They are a type of toxic family that produces and normalizes processes of victimization, manipulation, and covered up of physical and emotional abuse. He kept insisting, and from far away, he kept harassing me. He insulted me, humiliated me, and then he said he couldn't live without me. So twisted. He also managed to spy on my call system and knew who I was talking to, for how long, and at what time. He would call people I talked to on my cell phone to find out who they were. He was also monitoring who was coming into my apartment. It was a total nightmare. And there was a dancer who was staying at my apartment. She had really short hair, and she witnessed this and how closely watched I was while he was on tour out of the country. And he thought that she was a man, and he started threatening me and insulting me, telling me horrible things. When he arrived in Miami, his harassment didn't stop. He would spy on me at the gym where I trained. He would arrive at my workplaces with flowers to manipulate the security so they would let him in, and this without being invited. He also used to fool the security of my building. I have to give a picture of him to the security because in many occasions I caught him with his ears stuck on the door of my apartment to know and to listen to who I was talking to, who I was with, and he did this even though he was forbidden to enter my building. Psychologists claim that narcissists fantasize about finding their victims cheating on them. They say this is a way of projecting their own actions onto others, and in their psyche, they further justify their tyrannical and evil behavior, just as they justify their infidelities. They threaten you to allow your privacy to be violated, and so check your phone, emails, DMs, everything they can. The idea is to find some information that they can use to punish you. When I thought I had gotten him out of my life, everything got more intense. I felt like I was being watched and pursued by a psychopath. I had the feeling that I was dealing with someone with serious behavioral problems. I had no idea that the more distant, determined, and dry I was with him, the closer the danger approached. The harassment continued to escalate, and I had no protection whatsoever. One day, I got a clearer view of his criminal behavior. It was around 12 noon. I was in my apartment talking on the phone with a friend about how out of control he was and the fear I was feeling. I was telling him that I needed help and protection. And it was there while I was on the phone that he managed to sneak into my apartment with a stolen copy of my key. He snatched my cell phone out of my hand, threw it hard against the bed, and assaulted me. I was shocked, with my mouth open, paralyzed. The fear was horrible. After a few minutes, I started screaming for him to go away. My nerves were very altered. After that episode, the situation became more serious and critical. Even the security of my building had a picture of him to make sure he didn't get in, but he still managed to get past the security. That is how I started to find out if I could put a restraining order on him, a law that would prohibit him from coming near me. I thought that way I could distance him, and maybe I could feel more safe. The problem was that we both worked in the same industry, and the police mentioned to me that this could affect me at work, since there was supposedly not enough reasons to have and keep a restraining order, because there wasn't a crime at the time, even with all the harassment and the evidences. As the days went by, the water seemed to calm down. We were still connected because we worked for the same artist. but he wasn't harassing me like he used to. He changed his tactics, a new strategy. He begged me to let him be near me, to show me that he had supposedly changed. And even he began to acknowledge all the hurt he had caused me. This was very strange and unusual because he always held me responsible for his behavior. This type of person holds the victims responsible for their behavior, something typical of narcissism. Psychologists claim that in the mind of a narcissist, his victims are responsible for his personality disorders. According to them, they are to blame for everything from his infidelities to his violent acts. With his somewhat different demeanor, I thought maybe I could carry on the party peacefully with him. Because after all, we worked in the same industry and shared certain jobs. The last thing I wanted was to have an inconvenience with someone. I had no idea that such a different approach, supposedly peaceful, would change my life completely and not exactly for the better. Today, I stopped to think about all the times that I lost myself in order to help him. Continuing in an abusive relationship will only drive our self-esteem to a precipice that will gradually take away our self-worth. Even if there are people who will change certain patterns of behavior, you don't deserve to endure suffering, waiting for someone else to change. In those moments, you deserve to get back the most important relationship in your life, the relationship with yourself. When I transformed the relationship I had with myself, I became aware of the consequences of the decisions I made when I was trapped in a dark corner. Today, I can see what I have lived through as a very purposeful human experience. Yeah. Today that I have the mentality that I have, I realize so much pain, so much suffering, that I don't have a single positive memory of his passage through my life. And one calls that love, because that is what they make us believe, constantly repeating to us that no one will love us as they do. But hold on. They don't love, because love doesn't mistreat, doesn't force, doesn't manipulate, doesn't violate, doesn't get on your nerves. Love doesn't humiliate, doesn't destroy. It is so important that you understand, if their actions don't go hand in hand with their words, they are not going to change. And that is where the decision is yours, whether to leave or to stay there. You deserve to reclaim your power, your self-confidence, and self-love. If you have gone through unfair, toxic, abusive, and painful circumstances, I would like to help you recognize, validate, and release those experiences and emotions. Go to the link in the description, maggalife.com/liberation, and get your masterclass and workbook. It's free. Let's start your journey today. With love, Magdiel.